Hi there and welcome to this video tutorial for VBLFootSteps. In this tutorial we're going to go over the quick start setup for VBLFootSteps so you can get your character up and running. Now I've gone up and set a blank character with just some camera controls but no footstep system set up so that we can work on this and get things going. But before we do, I do want to bring your attention to the user manual. We're basically going to be going through the quick start guide here of the user manual, so I highly recommend having a look at this user manual. I've put a lot of effort into putting great detail into this so you can basically do anything that is possible with the footstep system, so please do have a look at it when you have a chance. Okay, getting back into the tutorial. Now I've set up this character in the tutorial section and I've deleted all the stuff. Actually, I still need to delete some of the stuff. I'll delete the handler stuff, and all we have is some some camera controls. So it's just kind of a blank character. So from here, we need to set up a few things. Firstly, let's start with our character and making sure we have proper footstep sockets on them. So let's go to our character and I'll go to Manny, not under animations, go to mesh, go to the skeleton, and let's find the feet by searching foot rather. And we're going to go to the foot L and foot R, and we're going to add sockets to these. Under the foot L, we're going to add a socket. Let's call it foot L _ L socket. That's fine with me. We're going to set its position and its rotation like so. And I know these numbers because I've done this before and I've recorded the numbers, so I don't have to play around with it. But basically, this is going to control the orientation of your footstep. So you do need these foot sockets on each footstep so that the system knows exactly where to put the center of the decals for the footprints. For the right socket, we're going to add another one, add the socket. You can name it whatever you want, by the way, but we can leave it as this for now. And I'm just going to put this at -7 and 90 degrees here. All right, so our foot sockets should be sitting nicely in the middle of the foot, oriented so that they are facing the front, like so. Now that our foot sockets are there, we can move on to the next part and add the notifiers required in our animations. Now I'm only going to show you one animation, and the other ones I've already done because there's no point doing those all on here. So let's go to this run forward animation, and we need to put left and right footsteps. Right click, add a notifier VBLFootSteps, and we're going to line them up. They're roughly in the same place, but basically if say you didn't have these default tags here already, which is for syncing, you would just, when the foot goes down, bang about there. It's actually a little bit in front, and then you would do that for all of these. I'm going to copy and paste a whole bunch of these. Now before we move on, we do need to configure these. So this is the left foot going down. So if we go over the notify panel, the details panel, we can see some settings. This is left, and it is a footstep type of run because we are doing a running animation. You have a whole bunch of options, and the whole reason for this is because the system can respond differently to the type of footstep. In the case of a run, it's going to be a louder footstep if you set it up that way. We can also change intensity. This basically will change the volume of the footstep. So say you have an animation that has some like big stomps or something, you might want to increase it, or a sneak, you might want to decrease it. It's really up to you. We're going to leave that as default for now. And the default is left, so let's just go and change all of the right footstep tags to right, and that should be enough. So that's left, this one's right, left, and the last one is right. Okay, so that is our animation now set up. All right, the third thing we're going to set up is our surfaces. Obviously, to detect a surface, it needs to be set up as a surface. The system uses raycast to detect the physical material of the ground, so we need to set up those surfaces. Let's go to project settings, and we'll type in surface. And you can see under engine physics, there's a whole bunch of surface types. Now these are all going to say none for you unless you've set them up. I've just set up a bunch. These are kind of arbitrary as long as you match them up with your physical materials later. So I've got asphalt, brick, cardboard, carpet, cloth, etc, etc, etc. In fact, I've got more than I'm actually using, but you can set up your surface names here. This is more just so that the surface types have a name. Next, we're going to create a physics asset. Now I'm just going to create an example physics asset in the tutorial folder. Let's go to right click physics material rather, not physics asset. And let's just choose the default and we'll go test tutorial physical material. If we double click on that, we can choose the surface type, and any of the surface types that you used will show up here. So let's make this one metal, for example. And what you can do is if you have a solid surface like this, static mesh or something like that, you can actually set the physical material in here. If I go to physics, you can see the physical material slot, and we can actually find our our tutorial physics material and put it in there. So now if we run on that surface, it's going to know that it's the tutorial physics material, which is the surface that we specified, metal in this case. That's just an example. Now I've already set up a lot of different physical materials. If you want to see them in the project folder, you can find them under the demo materials, physical materials. You can see I've got a whole bunch set up here. And I've also set up the landscape to output physical materials. So if we go have a look at that, this is just a quick example to show you. You do have to set up your landscapes to output physical materials with this landscape physical material output. I won't get into that now, but I'm just showing you so you are aware. All right, so our physical materials are now set up. You need to set up all the ones you need to. I'm not going to do that all on screen. The next thing we do is we need to start setting up our character, and for that we're going to need 3 assets. So let's go to our tutorial folder and add these assets, and we can just search VBL. We just need to make data assets rather. Create a data assets, and then we search VBL. We're going to need 3 of these. So we need a footprint profile, a surface profile, and a footstep profile. You can use an LOD profile. It's not required to get things working, but the other 3 are. So let's start with a footprint profile. Now a footprint profile defines a single foot, what the foot shape is, the pattern to use. So let's go tutorial FPP. I'm just going to call it FPP tutorial, footprint profile tutorial. All right, let's just create the other ones, data asset and VBL, and we'll create a surface profile. Now this is a profile that describes a single surface. So we're going to go footstep surface tutorial. And we're going to create another one, data assets and miscellaneous, VBL, and we're going to create a footstep profile. So you have a footprint profile, which describes the foot shape and pattern that it uses, a footstep surface profile, which describes an individual surface like snow or rock, and you have a footstep profile, which is a full list of all the surfaces that a character can respond to. So let's create that final one, and I'm going to call this FSP, I don't know, you can name it however you like, but we have these 3 assets. I'm going to quickly save all of those, save all. Let's go and have a look at these. Actually, let's leave them blank for now and we'll fill them in later. Let's now open our character, and we're going to add a component, and that component is going to be VBL footstep handler. Now this is the core component of this plugin, and it controls basically everything. If we go to our details panel, there's a lot of stuff we can add here. Now first of all, let's add in some footstep definitions, so rather foot definitions. We have 2 feet, a left and a right foot, so let's add those. Let's add a left and a right foot. I'm not going to go into the details just yet. We need to specify the footstep profile. So you can actually have different footstep profiles for different characters. So you have a giant character, he's going to have a completely different footstep response to all the surfaces. So he's going to need his own footstep profile. Though that doesn't mean you need a footstep profile for just different shoe types or different feet shapes, because we can do that with the footprint profile, which I'll get to in a second. For the most part, you can use the same footstep profile for most of your characters, especially if they're all human. In the tutorial, in the example project, I actually used the same footstep profile for the dog and the human So it's just an option there if you want to use it. So let's drag in our FSP tutorial into this footstep profile just to get started. Hang on, I believe that's the correct one. Let me open it. Yes, that's the list of surface profiles. I might have named these wrong. Footstep surface pro. So this is a footstep profile and this is a footstep surface profile. So yeah, take it as you will. All right, so let's go into our left and right foot definitions, and we need to put the socket name that we created here, foot_L socket, the same name. It has to be exactly the same name as what we named them on our skeleton, foot_R socket. And we need to then choose the footstep class. Now for 99.9% of cases, the default footstep class, VBL footstep, is enough. You can create custom footstep classes with blueprints, and I did that in the example project with the fire footprints that have extra particles in that. So you can choose that here. It's basically going to tell the system what footstep class to use for footprints from this particular foot. Then we have the footprint profiles. So in this case, we have FPP tutorial, which we created. You can see the other ones that I had earlier. You could set up a left foot and right foot. I'm not going to bother with that. And then you would have like a flipped foot shape. You can really do whatever you want. You can have different shaped feet if you're creating some kind of alien. I don't know. But let's just set FPP tutorial for both of those. Orientation method, that's how we're going to orient the footprint. We're going to leave that as per foot orientation. That's so that the orientation of those footprints are based on the sockets. You can use character orientation, it's up to you. I'm not going to go into any of the other details because this is quick start and the rest is more advanced stuff. All right, so that's our footstep definitions set up. Our footstep profile's been set up. Everything else we can leave as default. All right, so let's compile that and hit save. Now the only thing we really need to do before we get things up and running is these assets we created, we need to now fill them. So I'm gonna go to our tutorial folder, and the first thing I'll do is open up this FSP tutorial, and we don't need it that big. And we can drag in our first surface profile, add it in here rather, and let's just say this is like asphalt or metal. And we can add in our tutorial profile here, FSS tutorial. I think I named it differently from previous. Okay, so basically for every surface, you're going to have a surface profile. And you'll just keep adding those here. I'm not going to do it for everything. I'm going to just show you here, and then we're going to use the one that I already made, just to save time. So that's that done. That's the surface profile done. Sorry, the footstep profile done. And then we're going to go to the surface profile. Now this is where you describe how this surface responds. So first, let's set the physical material that it is. We said it was a metal. Next, we're going to choose the decal. I'm just going to, for the sake of this tutorial, I'm just going to make it a decal because I think it's the material that we use. So I'm just going to use the sand material. This is just an example, right? Obviously metal isn't going to have a decal, so you would just leave this blank usually, but in this case I'm just going to showcase that. Next we say the footstep response, and we can set now how it's going to respond to different types of footsteps, and this is where those tags come in. We've got walk, run, jog, whatever, custom. Whatever you set on the tags in the animation, it's going to trigger the footstep response based on this. So we have walk, we have run, we do also have land, but I'm just going to set up walk and run. I'll actually just keep it default. And in the effects, we can say none, there's not going to be an effect, or we can say something like sand. Let's just actually make this sand. Why don't we just make it sand? Footstep sand. Now I've already made a bunch of sound assets here. Sand, walk. See, I actually want the meta sound. I don't want the sound wave itself. But you can use sound cues or meta sounds, whatever. So I'll use walk there. And we'll do the same thing here. Sand. I don't have a different Niagara particle system for running and walking. And here we can go sound_run. There we go. So now the system knows what particle systems to use, what sounds to use, and what decals to use. There's a whole section here on dirty feet and how to handle dirty feet. That's too advanced for this tutorial. In this case, all we're going to say is this surface does not accept dirty footprints. And there we go. That is that surface profile set up. Lastly, we're going to go to the footprint profile, which describes how big the foot is and the size of the foot. Now, I'm just going to use the default textures that we have here, and we can find them in that you can use. So you should actually be able to find these here under FootSteps content textures, and you can see these profiles. So we can put the footprint profile alpha here and the normal. These are the two materials that we're going to need. Obviously the normal is about the imprint, and then the footprint alpha is about the shape. Now this is a packed material with 3 different channels. You can see one is like the actual stencil of the footprint. Another one is kind of like a stencil with a fall off, and then the other one is literally just a mask pretty much, or a transparency mask. So that's basically what that is. If you want more details on how to create that yourself, please check the documentation. It's all in there for you. We can also change the size of the foot with these decal settings here. So, but we'll leave that as default for now. Now that is fully set up. The character knows what footprint to use, it knows how to respond to surfaces, and it understands what those surfaces are and how those surfaces are going to respond to a footstep. All we need to do is hit play. Now the only thing is that I am going to do is, because I don't want to go through every single footstep profile and set it up, I'm going to use one that I already created. So I'm going to go back to my character. I will keep using the footprint profile because for the feet, because there wasn't much to set up there. But I'm going to change this footstep profile to the default one that I already created. And let's have a quick look at that. You can see it's got set up foot surface profiles for all the different surfaces I'm using, and you can actually have a look at these surface profiles. So for example, I click on grass, you can see it's got no decal material, but it's got a whole bunch of different responses. Let's have another look at another one, mud. So mud has a specific mud print material that I've set up. It even has dirty footprint stuff, so it dirties the feet kind of thing, and all that. I'm not going to get into too much detail. There are a bunch of like default materials that I have already created, and you can like just create copies of them and change the textures and stuff as you see fit. But we're not going to get much into detail there on that. So I've just changed that. Everything should be good to go. Now, as I said, for the animations, I've already tagged the other ones up, so I'm only going to do the one that I showed. Let's just hit play and see what happens. Okay, we are getting sound. I had my sound turned off. So there we go. We are getting footstep responses. We are getting sound, and we are getting particles just as our thing showed. Okay, so that's it. Thank you all for watching. I hope this quick start guide was useful to you. For more advanced techniques, for now, please look at the documentation. I'm not sure if I'm going to do more video tutorials, but I might if there is enough demand for it. Thank you for watching. I will see you next time.